Alright, greetings and welcome to the very first episode of Morrowind Modding Interviews. I'm your host, Dark Elf Guy, and with me today is Star Wars Gal 9875, author of such popular mods as Skies 4 and Detailed Rugs. Thank you for being with us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Right, so we're going to start off with a few basic questions. The first one of which is, when did you first start playing Morrowind and the Elder Scrolls in general?
I started playing Morrowind back around 2007. I got Morrowind for the Xbox. I was like only 14 back then. And I'd never played a game like that before. And then I heard about the expansions and Tamriel Rebuilt and the construction set, and I had to check it out for myself. So I got the game of the year for the PC, and then the rest is history, I guess.
So you didn't start out right away on the PC with modding then?
Well, I mean, as I said, I first started out playing the game on the Xbox. And I had a load of fun on that, but I wanted more out of the game, so that's why I got it on PC. And then the idea of adding my own content to the game was something that like I really hadn't thought was possible at the time. So I got into that, and it's been very rewarding for me, I think.
Alright, so that sort of leads into my next question. What was your first mod, and how did you get the idea for it?
I think if my memory serves me correct, my first mod that I released was it was this called Your Own Telvanni Manor, and I just kind of wanted to make a house mod that was modest, because I'd seen a lot of house mods that at the time that were really expansive and had this like huge massive house. And I also wanted to be in the Ascadian Isles because I like the Ascadian Isles. It's pretty. And yeah, I just decided well, I was in the game, I found this little island, and then I'm like, oh, this would be a nice place for a house. So I went to the construction set and I started fooling around with everything. And yeah, I figured how to make a house and put it there. Gave it a little interior with a bit of storage space, and then released it. And people liked it, so that was cool at the time.
Alright, what would you say draws you to modding video games in general?
Well, I feel like modding enables people to change things that they wouldn't, or well, to a scale that they wouldn't be able to change in real life. I was just thinking about this earlier, and for example, I wouldn't be able to build, say, a massive structure that's like significantly larger than myself within a week. It's just not possible, even with like a whole team full of people. Like I wouldn't ever be able to do that. But in Morrowind, I could just open up Blender, open up Photoshop, make some textures, some meshes, put it into the construction set, and then I have a massive structure. And that's something that is really cool to me. I've also always just been a creative person, and modding is a great way for me to practice that and develop useful skills. like, how to use Photoshop, how to use Blender, how to, compress textures for video games and use the CS. Uh, it's, and like share that with other people, which is kind of what's kept me going as a modder, is making things and getting to see what people think about them, and then improving upon that, making new things, and the process just keeps going and going.
That sort of brings me into another question. Do you consider Morrowind to be a good gateway into a creative outlet?
As far as modding goes, I definitely think so. I mean, for all different types of modding the game, I guess. Like if you were working on like quest mods, then like you would develop some good writing skills from that. Or if you're working on like graphics mods, then you would develop the skills to be able to create assets for like your own game, or work on a team with other people to make stuff like that. For I guess other parts of the construction set. I mean, the construction set, it's an SDK, so in using the construction set, you would expose yourself to the kind of stuff that video game developers are really dealing with on a day-to-day basis, including all the other programs that modders use. And like even outside of games, like there's tons of application for the skills. Like I've developed a lot of skills using Photoshop and Blender, and I use that for graphic design and other things.
So, sort of jumping ahead, would you say that through Morrowind you got the desire to learn these other programs like Photoshop and Blender and use them in more creative ways?
I think the first real program that I started learning that was sort of similar to all these programs was Flash. Back then it was Macromedia Flash, now it's Adobe Flash. But I had a really cool teacher in elementary school who taught us how to use Flash, and I would just make little animations and stuff, and then I wanted to learn how to use the other Macromedia programs as well. So I got myself Macromedia Fireworks, which is it's a similar to Photoshop, but it's more oriented towards web design and graphic design. And then I taught myself how to use that, and I also learned how to use Dreamweaver and taught myself like HTML and CSS. And then eventually I ended up teaching myself Photoshop because it was a very industry standard type of thing that a lot of other people would use. And it was able to do a lot of things that Fireworks wasn't oriented towards. And Morrowind was a big push for that because it's making textures in Photoshop. It's a lot more practical than making textures in Fireworks, which is not designed for doing that type of work. So it's definitely been what's pushed me to learn a lot of these programs, especially Blender. I have to say I probably wouldn't have tried to learn Blender if for Morrowind.
So, for someone looking to start out with making a new model or texture for the first time for Morrowind, would you recommend those sorts of programs in particular?
I definitely recommend Blender for people who want to do 3D because it's free and it's continuously being developed. And while if you want to do stuff for Morrowind, you have to use an older version of the program. Which, well, you don't have to. You can do this process where you save the Blender and then import. But I never figured out how to do that because I just stick with the older version. But anyway, I do definitely recommend Blender because it's free. It's very rewarding to learn. Uh, and yeah, there's ton that you can do with it. Photoshop is fantastic. If it's not a problem to get a copy of Photoshop because it is a very expensive program, then I'd say go for it. And there's other programs like GIMP and Paint.net. I've used Krita in the past. I'm not sure if that's for Windows, so I was using a Linux computer when I tried that. But yeah, those are really great programs, and I definitely would recommend using them with Morrowind.
Right, sort of switching tracks. Do you do any planning before you start a mod?
I mean, once I get the idea, like, for example, with my rugs, I have like an organized folder for all my work in progress stuff. And then I make a little subfolder that says like detailed rugs. And I just shove all the vanilla textures into there and then make a subfolder within that called afters, like before and afters. And then I just load them all up in Photoshop and when I end up getting something I'm satisfied with, I'll save them into the afters folder. For a larger mod like my Strauss McKay, I have tons of little notes and subfolders, and I made a little web forum where I can post stuff and organize my ideas. And even though I'm like the only one who frequently posts there, it's a good place for me to go to store all my uh, uh and yeah, my sky is actually it's kind of because it's gone through multiple different versions now, so now the folder for my skies is just a bunch of different subfolders for the different things. Because yeah, it's kind of gotten out of whack that folder structure for that mod. But yeah, mostly what I try to do is that once I get an idea, I'll just start putting together all the things that I'll need to make that idea go smoothly, and then start working on it.
Now, you've released quite a few mods over the years. Were there any that you had to cut some planned features from before the final version was released? Like feature creep?
Well, for my skies, really, has been the mod that's kind of had the most features that I've been trying to shove into. But like, I keep all the limitations of Morrowind's engine because it is very limited as far as what you can do with the weather in Morrowind. You can't add new weather types. You can't really change the sky, how the sky is rendered. At least, I mean, I did by changing the mesh, but like, there's a very limited amount of things you can do to change it. I mean, I've wanted to do like horizon clouds and volumetric clouds like that are 3D. Um, like dynamic objects like rainbows, cloud to cloud lightning, sundogs, sky with a bunch of different layers of textures. One thing I really want to do is make a night sky that changes over the course of the year, but that's not going to be possible until OpenMW opens up the de-hard codes the weather system, which I'm very much looking forward to, so I can go fiddle around and make new weather types and stuff. So I mean, I've kind of tried making things for skies like that, tried to get them to work in game, but then a lot of the stuff I try to end up doing, it doesn't work, ends up crashing the game or just looks really bad. So I pull it out of the final version and then, release all the stuff that works. As well as, of course, multiple iterations of textures that I'll scrap and remake or, go over a bunch of times. So it does. What's there in the beginning of making the mod is very different from what's at the end final release.
Sort of going into that, in general, what do you set out to achieve with each mod that you release?
I mean, my main goal, other than, achieving my idea, like say if with my rugs, the idea was, hey, I want to make these more detailed and higher resolution. Aside from doing that, set out to achieve with every new mod is to improve upon my own standard of quality. So I mean, I've been trying out things like normal mapping and reflection mapping, which I updated my Ghostfence recently to have normal maps, and that was cool. I'm kind of working on getting normal maps working for Strauss McKay because I figure I probably have enough time that OpenMW will be at least 1.0 by the time I get that released. So I figured normal maps would be a good place to add. And then, just improving the quality of everything and making it a learning experience, as well as just improving the game, in my opinion anyway. Other people might think that what I do is awful, but well, what am I going to do about that?
So, which of your mods would you say that you're most happy with?
Well, the mod that I've been the most happy with, it's probably been my most recent release of my skies, because you know, version 3, there were kind of a lot of the release didn't go as smoothly as I wanted to. I mean, there were a lot of like artifacts in the textures and because my internet connection wasn't very good at the time, I had this I like didn't include the right night sky or the night sky mesh. So I had to upload it separately, and then like because it wasn't part of the main download, a bunch of people would complain that it wasn't working, and then complain that it was hosted on a weird website. But like I didn't have the internet connection to be able to re-upload the whole thing again. So I really wanted to make sure that with my new skies that everything went really smoothly at release. So I did an open beta and like got everyone's feedback and made sure that everything was top notch and ready to go. And then the release went really smoothly, and I'm very satisfied with that. And it's, it's all I could have hoped for in the release, which I'm very happy about.
Now, is there something you would love to see in game, but don't have the time to do it yourself?
As far as what I would want to see in game, most of my ideas are Rust mods, which is probably something that people wouldn't think of me doing, because I'm mostly known for doing textures and stuff. But I, most responses before is because I've found the CS and that portion of the CS very, and then I end up getting distracted by all my other projects, so I don't have time to do anything. I mean, I have some ideas for quest mods, like an alternate path for the main quest where you don't have to join the Blades, an overhaul to the Thieves Guild, a quest that involves Fort Firemoth being restored, because I thought it was silly that that the Empire would just abandon such a deposit. And then I have this idea for a house mod that would allow you to build your own player house wherever you choose, which I would eventually like to do. But I mean, have a bunch of other projects which I'm trying to, push out the door. So those come first, really.
Alright, going into a new direction. Are there any non-Elder Scrolls games that you have drawn inspiration from, or been influenced by, when you make a mod, or a new texture, or new model?
I mean, I draw inspiration from a lot of sources. Like, the art in the Assassin's Creed games is something I've enjoyed a good bit. Diablo 2 has a great art style. But most of my inspiration comes from things in history, or in things I see in real life. Um, I mean, I'm kind of an interesting person to walk around with, because, like, I'll look at the sky a lot, and then I'll look at the ground and all the textures everywhere, and kind of get ideas from just looking around myself. Um, Look at the buildings, get architectural ideas. If I go on a trip somewhere, then I'll always be looking around at things um, for inspiration on all my different projects. But most of my inspiration for the Elder Scrolls and Morrowind comes from things inside the TES universe, like Skyrim and Oblivion, and especially Redguard for my Stros McKay mod, since Redguard takes place on Stros McKay.
So, would you say the kind of mods you make have been influenced by your educational background or real-life relationships? I know you mentioned a professor earlier.
Well, yeah, my teacher in grade 6, she kind of started me into graphic design and web design and 3D, and well, I mean, she was the catalyst for me learning a lot of different things, I think. I mean, I've done occasional like graphic design courses, but um, most of my kind of my influence comes from my own uh, urge to do so. Quite a few talented people over the years, but I think just the um, the rewards of making mods, and getting to see what people think, and what comes from that is really what pushes me.
All right, and are there any new projects that you're working on right now? I know you mentioned your Strauss Mackay mod earlier.
Yeah. That's the Neverine Chronicles, which is, I think a lot of people wonder why it's Chronicles, considering it's the mod I'm working on right now is just one thing. But I mean, the idea is that it follows what the Neverine um was doing after Morrowind took place. And while like the first couple parts of it, which is Strauss McKay and another mod which I have yet to announce, um, because you know that I would be getting way ahead of myself if I told people what I was thinking of. Um, I mean, those two mods you don't have to do, you don't have to play before you finish the main quest, or you don't have to finish the main quest to play through those mods. But the eventually the idea is to kind of follow what the Neverine was doing after Morrowind, because but Bethesda left a lot of things up in the air. You know, and there's a lot of different rumors in Oblivion and in Skyrim as far as what happened to the Neverine. I kind of um, let you write that story for yourself um, by providing the slate to do it. So that's Neverine Chronicles, and the first one is Tiaj Kiaj Resties, which is on Strauss McKay. And it sets the stage really for the rest of the mods in the series. It's been great fun working on. I'm also working on a GUI overhaul, which kind of redoes all the aspects of the interface and, you know, a bunch of new splash screens, new main menu, menu buttons. Really trying to make the game look like it came out yesterday, or at least what the interface we have now would look like if it came out today is kind of what I'm trying to do. What's been on the back burner for a while for me has been my landscape overhaul. MADW or MADW, Morrowind: A Detailed World, which I'm working on the Shiogorad right now, and that's been really fun. I've been really satisfied with how much of a difference, you know, adding a bunch of rocks around to kind of set the shape of the hills and stuff and add big cliffs and things. And it really makes the landscape pop and seem more real. And I'm excited. I have a bunch of screenshots out if people are interested in looking. As far as other mods, I mean, I have like a bunch of other little work in progress things, but the things I mentioned are kind of my major projects. I do plan to make a new version of my skies in the future, but I'm probably going to wait for OpenMW for that so that I can, you know, do some of the ideas that I mentioned earlier.
All right, about your landscape overhaul, do you see that kind of being like Wally BB's source time overhaul?
Yeah, I was very happy when I found out about that mod because, you know, overhauling the landscape of Morrowind is something that I've been sort of wanting a mod for quite a bit of time. Uh, I know Transmaster's Morrowind Rebirth has a lot of changes to the landscape, but I mean it also changes a lot of other things about the game, which kind of made me reluctant to try it. Although, I mean, I might end up trying in the future at some point. Uh, Wally B's overhaul has been really fantastic. Exploring Solstheim again. exploring Tamriel Rebuilt is really cool. That's been a big source of inspiration.
Right, sort of backtracking. I was kind of curious. Why Stros Mackay for your Neverine Chronicles mod? What made you decide on that location?
Well, I kind of wanted to make my own landmass mod, but I knew that I wouldn't be able to take on a whole province or something like that. And Stros Mackay is a relatively small island, so I thought it would be a good place to start. And then I kind of wanted to, and then I started developing these other ideas regarding following the story of the Neverine. And I also thought that Stros Mackay would be a good setting because it allows for kind of a follow-up to Redguard, which which is chronologically released before Morrowind. And we haven't heard from Stros Mackay since Redguard, so it'd be a good idea. It'd be good to sort of expand on what happened since that game, and like a lot of people, probably most people haven't played it, so it'd also be probably good to expose them to a lot of art that's been inspired from that game, which I really recommend playing Redguard because, I mean, if you can get past the wonky controls and actually get it working in your computer, it's quite a blast.
That sort of goes into my next question. What do you think about the other Elder Scrolls games, like Skyrim, Elder Scrolls Online, Oblivion, and Redguard?
Well, Skyrim has been quite a bit of fun. I got bored of it after a while because I felt like a lot of the quest lines and stuff were a bit linear. But it's definitely a step in the right direction for the Elder Scrolls, and I'm looking forward to what Bethesda's doing with Elder Scrolls 6. But I mean, we'll probably see Fallout 4 before then. Uh, I mean, I don't really care about Elder Scrolls Online, to be honest. I think it's kind of generic and uninspired. Um, I played quite a bit of Oblivion. I love its writing and its quests, and I like the art in Oblivion, but I think the art style that they chose was a bit too generic, like too much standard fantasy fare. So you'll see like minotaurs and stuff like imps, which they look like, you know, they look like demons, and that seemed kind of really uncharacteristic to the Elder Scrolls to me. Um, and then kind of Cyrodiil looked like generic Europe, a generic Europe setting, and all the Imperials sounded like British people, which, like, nothing against British people, but um, I mean, I just didn't think that Oblivion really did justice to Cyrodiil, um, considering the descriptions of Cyrodiil in the books. Redguard, I talked about Redguard a little bit. It's been um, the largest source of inspiration for Stros Mackay. And like, besides having amazing writing by Michael Kirkbride, the art style is like the same quality as Morrowind. Um, it's really unique and gives off a lot of the same vibes that Morrowind does, but it's in a completely different way because it's in a sort of a setting that feels more Middle Eastern. I mean, I haven't played any of the other Elder Scrolls games like Daggerfall, Battlespire, Arena. I do plan to eventually, but for now I've got modding and other things to do.
Speaking of modding, have you used the creation kit in Skyrim or Oblivion at all?
um, I mean, I've popped open the Oblivion construction set, to like see what the differences were between Morrowind's instruction set and Oblivion's instruction set, but I never really ended up doing anything other than that with it. I've never even opened or downloaded the Skyrim CK, so I don't have any idea about that. I think the extent of modding that I've done for Skyrim and Oblivion is converting textures from, or getting textures to work from my skies in Morrowind and not Morrowind, Oblivion and Skyrim. I put my moons that I made for Morrowind into Skyrim, and they look really great in that game. Which I thought was fitting actually, because Skyrim's moons were where I drew a lot of the inspiration for the moons for my newest version of Skies.
Now, after about 14 years, the Morrowind modding community is still going pretty strong. Now, what do you think makes this community so vibrant after such a long period of time?
I think that Morrowind's just a really unique game, and it has an art style like no other, as well as writing like no other game. And since it's like an open world sandbox RPG, it lends itself really well to replayability. It's really a game that people are just sort of drawn to. Like no other game provides the same atmosphere or the depth, and like the freedom that Morrowind does. So the people who do play it just keep coming back for more, and then the people who discover it are just drawn to it as much as we were the first time we played the game.
Expanding on that, do you think there's anything the Morrowind modding community should be doing in order to continue to expand and grow in the coming years? Like, should we be doing more promotion?
I mean, I think what we should be doing is kind of, what we continued to be doing, as well as can you continue to expand the game's content and support projects like OpenMW and MGEXE, which will allow us to mod the game in ways that we were never able to before. And then at the same time, support big projects like Tamriel Rebuilt and the Province projects, because the release of a lot of fan content is kind of what drives or what keeps a lot of us playing the game. And of course, continue releasing out your own little mods as well, little and big mods, because as I said, that stream of fan created content is really what keeps people playing the game, is having new things to do. And after 12 years, most people have moved on to other games like Skyrim, but if we can show them that Morrowind has a lot of the same appeal, then it'll serve us very well.
Do you think the community should be doing more for advertising about these large projects like Province Cyrodiil, Tamriel Rebuilt, Skyrim Home of the Lords, and Open Morrowind?
I mean, honestly, I don't really think that anyone should be obligated to try to advertise things in the community, because modding itself is quite a bit of work on its own. And I think that, continuing with releasing mods and providing new content is really what'll continue to keep community alive. And I think that like advertising really is something that modders themselves shouldn't really have to worry about. Um, but you know, people who use the mods, both modders and non-modders alike, really should just, you know, continue spreading the word of mouth and you know, telling everyone how great Morrowind is and why we keep playing a game that's 12 years old.
Now, is there any advice you'd like to give to budding new Morrowind modders out there looking to release their first mod?
Well, I mean, I know when I first started modding, I thought that the stuff I did was terrible, and what I have to say about that is that no one is terrible as you think you are. So, it's perfectly fine if your first mod is terrible because you'll get a lot better, and then it won't be as hard as you think it is. And you know, don't worry about doing everything perfect. Don't try to do a super large project right away either. Just, you know, do a small little thing and then work your way up, and you know, you'll be spending all your time modding the game sooner than you think.
Now, are there any modders or mods in the community right now that particularly have your attention?
I mean, Tamriel Rebuilt, of course, has been a constant source uh, of excitement, and I've been following that for as long as I've known about the project. Melkor Dark's work is something I'm really a fan of. I'm usually like very picky about landmass mods, because I don't want to. I won't want to play with any landmass mods that aren't like strictly derived from places mentioned in Test lore. But Lithonia, I'm not sure how that's actually pronounced, has you know, made me make an exception to that rule, and I'm definitely going to try out Lithonia when uh, when any portion of it is released. And you know, his other mods are fantastic as well. Illumineal's work is really fantastic. I'm not sure what she's working on right now. I can't wait to find out, though. I love the retorts and calcandiculars she recently released. Um, I used to be a project lead for Province Cyrodiil. Um, I would I was kind of the person who would organize all the models and textures for the project, and then I eventually became an admin. And then, you know, Scamp and Samira and the rest of the current team took over. But I still check out what they're working on and like read the parts of the forums that regular users can't. uh, and check out their work in progress work, which I have to say is really stunning, and I think that everyone should look forward to that because you'll be in for a treat really when it gets released.
Right, finally, is there anything you'd like to say to the community as a whole? Or someone you'd like to give a shout out to?
I mean, I don't really know of anything to say to the community as a whole, but I'll just give a shout out to my partner who's been a constant source of love and affection and support, which has been really great for me. And then a shout out to everyone who's played my mods and given feedback, and everyone who's releasing mods as well and working on their own things, and everyone who's playing the mods that we make, really. And then of course a shout out to Bethesda for making us such a fantastic game, because I'm sure none of us would be here right now if it weren't for Morrowind.
All right, that's all. That's all I have. So thanks for agreeing to do this interview. It sounds like you've got quite a few projects going on.
Yeah, so many projects. I have to keep reminding myself not to give myself more projects.